So let me be honest. I love every guest who joins me on this show, but sometimes you have like a super favorite, and today is one of those times. And I also believe that people come into your life either for a reason or a season. And I know Dickie Smothers came into my life for a reason. He is an inspiration to me. He is someone who has spoken truth to power, who has used his creative genius alongside his brother, who's had an amazing relationship with his brother and a partnership for all of us who want to learn how to partner with somebody and get along for years and years and years, on the road no less, with creative egos involved. There's so much to learn from this man. I am honored to have gotten to know him through the years, and he joins us today. Dickie Smothers is in the house.
Thank you very much. I think this is a sign language, so thank you. I love you.
Wow.
And you came into my life on one of my wonderful seminal moments of striving and failing and learning to be better for that. And
you did an incredible job. I don't think there's any failure to it, but we'll leave it at that. You're a harsh critic of self. So let's go back. I want to go way back. Okay. Like, this is not the most happy moment of the way back. Like, your childhood, dad's situation was kind of an interesting one in terms of the trauma. Can we start right in the trauma and get through some drama and get to the good?
You can, but I remember the dad thing, like the trauma of childbirth. I know I was there. I just thought of that. Whatever you are in, it is the normal. And we were in a very difficult time. It's hard to say any wartime is gentle and gentlemanly. I guess it was in the old days, when they stood up with red jackets and got in lines and did all this stuff. It was awful. It was awful and unknown.
Your dad, though, was a prisoner of war.
That's right.
That adds an added level of awful, right?
Yeah, that's why I'll do the quicker. Yeah, Tom was born early 37. I was born late 38. We traveled with Dad at West Pointer. You traveled with military officers where possible. It was a good station in the Philippines, but not at that time in history. May of 41, they evacuated all the military dependents from Army, Navy people, personnel, whoever was there. And so 6 months prior to Pearl Harbor, my mom was put on a ship. She was close to 6 months pregnant with my little sister, and she had two terrible twos, roughly, kids running around and not knowing if she'd ever see her husband or we would ever see our father again, and we did not. And so we settled in Southern California, and that was a blessing. It's like you do what you do where you land. In pandemic, terrible disasters, whatever, misfortune puts you there. We should have been in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, where Dad was born and raised, but we weren't, and we were there. And because the loss of father and my mom's struggle with sobriety and raising kids, we were tighter siblings, tighter. The big thing, Mom always liked you best, was Tommy loved to yell at me, and that came out by accident one time. It was not an issue. We loved our mother, but she struggled, and I took after my mom, and Tom took after Dad, and I went through the same process my mother did, but I was very successful in it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 25, 26 years of sobriety here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I just think that lots of people, as a result of trauma, they just kind of go inward, and there's no creativity, no productivity. Yeah. Fortunate for you two to be brothers who found something. Now, my take on it is the Kingston Trio paved a path for you, but somehow you two figured this cool, weird folk comedy thing.
Yeah. The rest of the story, something happens there. Like, which is your big break? Every single one. If one of them was missing, that link wouldn't have been there. And the trauma of my mother, Tommy and I growing up in Southern California, it was not the backwaters. It was not a wonderful little place like Des Moines, Iowa. That wasn't a stepping stone to show business out there. But L.A., Hollywood, the cutting edge California. Growing up, we graduated from high school in the mid 50s. Kingston Trio got big in the late 50s with MTA and all those songs and folk. All of a sudden, instead of doo-wops and all these Four Freshmen and these nice songs, all of a sudden there's story songs of America, soldier, like heroes and all that stuff. So if we had done our regular progression, sang in school, put out a group to sing in local little fun things, there was no upside. There's nowhere to go with that. But comedy is a treasure. In the late 50s, there weren't any comedy stores. There weren't any comedy clubs. There were little nightclubs. Then all of a sudden, there were coffee houses and coffee shops and little things with folkies. And we got notorious right away for disrespecting and weren't ethnic. We were making fun of that history, but that was our style. We're dyslexic. We can't remember stuff. And Tommy had a genius of being able to be right out of the box funny, doing things funny. Was it his dyslexia and his trouble with words or his thought process? Very bright, very, very rich and as a human being, he always was. But right out of the box, he didn't have to learn to be funny. Steve Martin was one of our writers. He worked and struggled, and he's brought that out. Generally, to say, if you want to be a comedian, you have to learn to bomb and be terrible for a long time. But Tommy, right out of the box, just he nailed people and got the funny lines. And I was the perfect catalyst. What is a super glue? You need the first bottle, then you mix it with the second bottle, and you got something different. That's a good team, like George Burns and Gracie Allen. He went through so many partners, seals, dogs, whatever, and he found Gracie. She was made for him. They were perfect. And Tommy and I,
the straight man
perfect together.
Get the credit. I give you lots of credit for that, though you don't take much. You almost always give your older brother, older by 2 years, this sort of chops for leading you in the genius of comedy. But your timing together was amazing, and that sort of correct my brother thing was interesting.
Yeah, but Joseph, a comedian can have a partner like George Carlin was Burns and Carlin. He was obviously a brilliant talent, but he got a lot of fundamental stuff of performing. Then he dumped any partner, and he was there. Now, if I had done the same process, worked with my brother, dumped him, I'd have been an announcer. Maybe not even a good game show host. I don't know. I could have done that maybe. But
all right,
you see, the genius was Tommy.
Set up a clip for me. I pulled a clip. I only did 3 minutes of it. I never know on Facebook Live if they're going to say I'm stealing intellectual property, even if it's yours.
No, you're good.
Even if
I give you permission.
1 million years old. So it is a classic time in comedy. You are going to be on a show where a guy stayed 39 years of age his entire life. Can you tell me a little bit about the ramp up there? How long had you been successful? This is long before your own variety show, long before your sitcom, and then the variety show, right?
Keeping in mind, I did not cram for this interview. Yeah, I don't have notes. I don't have any crib notes, but that was prior. It was black and white, and prior to our first TV show, which is a sitcom in '65. So this was Jack Benny, and it was probably in '63, '64 ish.
Okay.
And we got to be on his show, and he was one of the most delightful guys. I don't know which one it was, which performance. So we'll just watch.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's see what you think of this one. Let's see if this is actually you, and if you remember any of it. We'll be silent as we hear the genius of the Smothers Brothers.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, getting on with the show, I'd like to bring on my guests, two very fine entertainers, the Smothers Brothers.
Down, boy, turn that okay round. Down, boy, turn that okay round. Only song I ever did sing is pull that cabbage down. full of cabbage down, boys. Turn that old Dick Brown. The only song I ever did sing is full of cabbage down. Take it, Tom. No. I said no, I didn't want to take it. You're supposed to take it. Aren't you a folk singer? Yes, but I said no because I didn't want to take it. Wait a minute, you're a folk singer. Have you read the folk singer's guidebook? Yeah, but I didn't want it. And what does the guidebook say? It says all folk singers are obligated to do what? You're obligated to take it. Without hesitation, without thinking, like a reflex, Tommy. Take it, Tom. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, when I say take it, hop to it. Pour that cabbage down. Take it, Tom. Boom, boom, boom. Hundreds of years ago, the railroad started in America. Rugged men of yesteryear went out in the wilderness with vision in their eyes and big 9-pound hammers in their hands. Went out in the wilderness to build the great spider web of steel rails, the transcontinental railroad to span our country, as these men went out in the wilderness and toiled and inched their way across the vast bosom of America. That's a little sex in the show. This wasn't just a fun job. There was dangers in this job as they built the railroads up the mountains and down the mountains and across the deserts and over raging rivers, and they had to span crevices, deep crevices in the ground, and in the bottom of the crevices there was pumas. These were pumas with claws and foam coming out of these pumas' mouth, and the railroadmen, they're going, "Whoa, there's pumas down there! I'm not going to build any railroads across the ground. There's pumas in the crevices." There were no pumas in the crevices because we don't have pumas here. There are no pumas in America. Well, maybe some came over to visit. They don't visit. Now, if you want to keep your story truthful, you get rid of the pumas right now. I'm not going down that crevice.
All right, that is amazing.
So
I mean, do you remember? Can you remember being in that space at all? Does it?
Yes, I can. And Tommy and I we can't write comedy. We performed at improv, sort of like Nichols and May. Second City was the great renaissance of comedy. It was starting in Chicago and around at that time. So that piece we did for maybe 30 years, and it was evolving and shaping, and new things would come and ebb and flow. And man, he had pumas, and then he got rid of he says, well, they sure look like pumas for a while. Then pretty soon, yeah, but they were disguised as foaming rocks. There's these rocks down there. He never lost focus on getting those pumas in. And that's the way we had to give and take. Of course, there were pumas in America. So I like to I correct my brother incorrectly. It's the point of, I would just naturally know to put him in a position that gave him great opportunity to go in this direction. He would constantly surprise me. And because we were loose and fluid, we could never just sort of cruise through a show and think it's we know this so well. It's your turn, my turn, and lose the focus and the energy. We had to listen all the time because it would have just enough that we could lose the nuance, and the audience would tell us what's funny. And that's how it worked. And it slowly, when we started, all we were doing was featuring Tommy's his ability to do funny things. I see a real funny person doesn't need the joke. We don't do jokes. They get the laughs between the laughs, you know, like. Yeah,
I mean, so many of those looks, the nonverbals, the timing,
you can't write it.
Pauses,
you can't write that.
Things that were, really funny were in the pauses, right? In the crevices. So let's
freaks. Now I got my own crevices.
Yeah, we all do. Let me pause for a second in our own thinking about this, because I'd like to summarize a couple of things so far. Adversity did not provoke disaster for you. It was a catalyst lots of events have to happen in a chain in order to be successful. If one of those had been missing, you would not have been the Smothers Brothers that were so successful for so long. So those are great teachable lessons. I think being present and being spontaneous and not having everything contrived and prepackaged, being in the moment. I think there's so many lessons to that. Let me step toward kind of moving past some of your comedy bits like you were doing there. You got in a sitcom that didn't really play to your strengths. I don't think that it's kind of a single camera shot. It just didn't have the musical elements. It didn't run very long, though. It held its own, I think. But then somehow, because of Gunsmoke, you got a chance to take on the sheriff.
No, you mean Bonanza.
Bonanza, yeah.
Yeah. The sitcom was a great example of how you learn from not getting a successful, like the suit of clothes didn't fit us. Bill Maher's original show on television was awful. They were all falling over each other. You had to find the format. So we knew we wanted an audience, we wanted music, we wanted to do our own timing, which a single camera show doesn't do. That's shooting a movie. And we wanted to be relevant. And we were none of those things in that show. So our career was really zooming up at that time. And CBS was in deep trouble on 9 o'clock Sunday night, the most watched hour of the week. Appointment television, you didn't record anything. You weren't there, you missed it. So they were opposite Bonanza, which you brought up, and it was bulletproof. And CBS was bleeding money. The highest advertising dollar was 9 o'clock. They had it very scale. And and Gary Moore was in that spot. And Gary Moore had a great history in television. Created the show for Carol Burnett. He had a variety show, game shows. He was very kind to us. And his show that year was the last rated show. And they wanted something quick in the middle of the season.
And that's a variety show, right? Because you can't do it.
They wanted something quick and dirty. It was inexpensive versus a film show. There's a lot of ramping up to that. So here we are with a big high TVQ. They tested us. And now they test us. They say, who? Go to old age home for that. But anyway, we've tested really strong. We were great performers. And they were thinking, and William Morris Agency, Abe Lasvogel was the president that went to CBS and said, all of your team is old. Your variety shows are hosted by people like Jack Benny, Danny Kaye, Red Skelton. It's time for some young blood. And it happened, and we happened to be available. And the thing that made it the show perfect for us, it was the mid-'60s was happening without our participation. We didn't help create it. It was happening. We had a great social conscience. We wanted young writers to be relevant. And we struck a real hard deal because CBS thought we'd be in and out in 13 weeks, which is what they would give you for half a season. And in the meantime, they could create something that would be have a chance to be successful. And so we got away with, as we understood, we got creative control. And we didn't think the 60s was going to lay out like that. But here we were I think the only act they could have put on that had that political, social morale and wasn't afraid to do things that hadn't been done before in that time frame.
Well, let's talk about your courage, right? Because Lyndon Baines Johnson wasn't impressed, though his daughter
yes, he was.
Yeah,
she was impressed.
Even though I think there was a line somewhere that they were less than attractive. But anyway, most of it was around kind of just Phil Oakes type songs, kind of things that challenged the Vietnam War and the notion that the people on the front line might be having a very different experience than the leaders who were sending them into the war. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you were hearing from Johnson to the heads of CBS and then what they were asking of you and your brother?
Yeah, those guys all hang out together. They still do, except nobody wants to hang out with the current president. Lyndon Johnson, at one point, he knew his daughters liked the show, and he sat with Paley, the CEO or the president, the creator of CBS, basically, William Paley, and he asked him, could he talk to the boys and have them tone down their criticism on the war, because he's trying to manage a war here, and they're not helping.
Did you know you were supposed to help him manage the war? I didn't know if you had.
No, we didn't know that till later. And so Tommy didn't have any. Tommy had so naive in the bureaucracy of the broadcasting. You start as a page and a cue card holder all the way up to the top guy. You don't jump like in the army. You don't go to the colonel. You go to your sergeant, your corporal. Tommy flew to New York and got right into Paley's office and started talking to him. And when he came back to Hollywood, the vice president in charge of or president in charge of the variety shows, he says, "You really got in his office? What did it look like?" I'm exaggerating a little bit. Yeah, he says, "I just came in there and talked to him." But
sometimes
anyway,
it's good not to know you can't, right? Like it's sometimes good.
Yeah. If you don't know you can't do it, you could do it. And we didn't know we were brave. We didn't know any of that stuff because the story was unfolding as the decade progressed, and we would book unusual acts. We get credit for putting on a lot of black musical acts, from Moms Mabley to the Earth, Wind and Fire, those kinds of people, and great acts. We featured rock and roll. If they had talent and they could do it live, we wanted them on our show, and that was different. At the same time, as you saw Jack Benny doing the Jack Benny show, Betty Davis, and from Betty Davis to Kate Smith, my gosh, were on our show. The icons that our generation grew up on the radio, and then early.
So let me then take you. I'm going to fast forward through some of that. You wanted Pete Seeger on to sing Big Muddy, I think.
You got
they
that?
said no. You actually, I think they clipped them out or something, and then they clipped out other things of yours. You did
You want to hear a little more on that story?
Yeah.
Well, Pete Seeger was a great American. He was part of the blackballing the McCarthy era, He was one of the greatest folk singers, and he was with the Weavers. They had "Goodnight Irene" on top of those Smoke Elvis songs. Anyway, he wrote a song, "Waist Deep in the Big Muddy," and it was he got his inspiration from a troop of soldiers that were. Well, he put it in the frame of a troop of soldiers following an ignorant leader. And you could say who it is. The leader of our country, and the river was this deep, getting in over our head in Vietnam. And he said, "Don't worry, I know the way. Follow me. We'll be safe. Basically, we'll be safe." And they were, before they knew it, they were waist deep in the Big Muddy. And he kept going lower, and then they drowned. So Tommy always said that to the people, if it's a decent song, you could do what you want. Pete said, "I like to do that song." It was relevant for the day. Doves and Hawks, pro and con the war. And so Tom said, "We'll do it. We'll have a backup." And they did the backup song. And we were devastated, and Pete was not happy about that. Well, apropos to the president of CBS and the president and that stuff, they came to Tom and said, "Okay." Tom kept saying, "I want Pete Seeger to sing Big Money." He says, "Okay, if you back off on the war thing, it's like trading. Quid pro quo. You do this for us, we'll do that for you." And like a teenager who will say, "Promise anything to Dad to get that car on Saturday night," and then forget that he made the promise.
That's your brother.
Yeah. Pete Seeger got on and got to do it. That's a very proud moment of ours to have that song. And the song, by the way, our stuff was so polite and lightly sprinkled within the show that it was unusual and unheard of for the day. But today, it's just like saying Lenny Bruce, who was just really off the charts back then, would just be one of the many. You can't fire everybody today. You can't get everybody out. But there was this one guy, we're like a groundhog back there, coming up, looking out of our hole, saying, looks fine. Whoops, off with your head. And
so,
you know
so
what?
you did that. Then there was some rioting footage to the music of, I'm forgetting his name now. I love
Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte. And that got recast, and they ended up doing Harry, but they did like
they took out the whole medley. It was a long medley, and it was 1968, and the Democratic Convention in Chicago was a riot. It's the first time the police department. I went through a police school in Sarasota, Citizens. They give you 6 weeks course. So I got the in and outs. We got thumbnail things of police, just thumbnails. And it's really not a fair thing to do a thumbnail. It's like tweeting the police and knowing what they're about. But anyway, they were afraid. They had never had demonstrators which were middle class, were students. They were all the downtrodden, the economic, the things you could really shake your head, But it was different, and it got way out of hand in Chicago. And so when Harry did the song, which are fun clips of "Mama Look Up, Boo Boo Day, Shut Your Mouth, Go Away," those kind of songs. You got to smile and dance when you hear Belafonte doing those things. And they would shoot inside things. Remember the conventions with the balloons and the signs and all looking like total idiots. Has nothing to do with saving our country. But then interspace was the brutality on the street. And so this is the games they played. They took it out, and they had, we thought we had creative control. And in reality, constitutionally, only the network, the owner of the show, the owner of the network has that. So they took it out, and we weren't going to take it out. We said, this is a good show. We stand by it. You do what you want with it. And they put in a big, long Nixon political commercial for president, like rubbing our face in it a little bit,
So let's jump past that, because you had pre-approvals of your material that you had to deliver in advance. They alleged that you did, that Tommy didn't deliver something that needed to be delivered, that you were in breach. They cancel you, you take them to court, you win, right? But that's 3 or 4 years later, and the show's long gone.
Yeah, and we think we were fired. They canceled the show, then fired. We already had agreed on another show. We owned the time slot 12 months of the year. That was part of our contract. We created the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour. And we had another one, and we had a great production team. And this is what Tommy was risking. And from one side, you could say, you're risking the jobs of all these writers. And no, even a writer that had not done anything on our show, but was a writer, boy, they snapped up. Everybody snapped up. The writers, the creative people on the show, they all did well. But what we were risking was not having the soapbox, the power seat. Now, Dave Gard of the Kingston Trio talked to Tommy. He quit the Kingston Trio at their peak, and he was the leader, the tall banjo player. And he was going to start another group and get creative because he was tired of doing the same stuff. And that never happened, and he lost his power. He lost his people. He had no juice anymore. They said, you're going to lose your juice, you guys. You got something. You know what? And had we followed that, I think we would have had a great production career. I don't think we would have done what we did, and we don't regret a thing we did. We got fired. How much?
That's authenticity, though, isn't it? I mean, it's in the end, you can look back without regret for who you were and how you showed up.
Hey, Joseph, you know how it is that you walk down the street and the people of a certain age, they come up, and you know people, when you remember a good memory, your brain is there. It's not remembering, it's present. And the joy that they have of coming up for no reason at all, is said, I want to thank you for something we did 50 some odd years ago. Yeah, well, you're a realtor.
When I was with you, I remember having a meal near my house where the waitress is probably half of my age, which is a couple of years less than yours. And she was like, my mom loves you. Like, she knew who you were a generation removed. And the lore, I think, of the heroism of the truth of your story is something we're all looking for, right? Like, we want to believe that if we were in the same place, that we would stick to our morals and we wouldn't let ourselves be corrupted by the fame, celebrity, so much so that we wouldn't stand our guns.
I know. Isn't it funny? It's God. I believe in a higher power because I am in a 12-step group, and we sing acceptance. Nothing happens for no reason at all. Things happen, and if you want to change the whole world or have it just your way, like a controlling person, you're going to end up defeated. But if you accept and grow off of that, the situations created the direction of the show. I was surprised as anybody that these things happened on the world stage. Boy, Tommy wanted to do, for instance, the vice president in charge of public affairs. Local stations would have somebody somber would come out and give a point of view on something in your community. Well, they laughed at Tommy, so we had a good friend named Pat Paulson. He was perfect to come out, and then we eventually ran him for president in 1968. And he took second in New Hampshire primary, a distant second, but it was and we weren't the first to run a celebrity.
I think Paulson, I might add, and I would have voted for him. He
God,
as clued in as anyone.
So opportunities avail themselves in it. But if you come in, as in life, I feel, if you're locked in to a certain way of doing things, you miss the opportunities of the nuance of the time. The
talent you had. I mean, the Paulsons, and then you mentioned Steve Martin earlier, a writer of yours for your show.
Rob Reiner. These people were. Rob Reiner was from writing royalty. Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks, the Sid Caesar Show, brilliant, and he was way before he did Meathead and those things, his roles. But they grow, and and the great variety shows in the history of television, the writers. If you follow the writers from the Milton Berle to Sid Caesar to you name it, all the way through, you find great comedic writers that went on and superseded the stars of the show. We really presented. We had much fun. We did our little Tommy and Dickie thing. And we had the moral compass there with Mason Williams and and we could do some stuff, but we loved presenting talent. And
you though then did what is almost unheard of, right? 50 years of partnership with your brother. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about it from the dynamics of brother to brother, the dynamics of two creative artists, the dynamics of, oh my God, him again. Or what, he's stealing my line, or the spotlight's shining too much on the wrong side of the stage. Talk to me about the negotiation of a career that long, with all of the stresses. And, there weren't always successful relationships. There was your alcohol issues. There were all kinds of things going on. But how did you maintain a brotherly success story for that long?
There was some really stressful times, like any marriage, and it was a marriage. We were a couple. Tom would do it in the show sometimes. I don't get to laugh with it, but he said we're like an old married couple. A lot of fighting and no sex.
You got to laugh today.
Yeah, and we like it that way. I might add, we like it that way. Tommy was under stress all the time. PTSD. You don't have to be in battle of life, battle of career, battle of pressures, and you keep enduring, and you do it, and it wears you down. And Tommy got very short at times, and I thought he had a drinking problem at some time, but you can't call it. I don't know how he handled what he did, but he'd get real short with me sometimes. And other times just cover my ass really good. He said, hey, you're doing that thing with Burt Reynolds. Don't look at him. Don't look at him in this skit. He's jiving. He's driving around. He's getting the attention. Don't pay attention. Just throw your lines away. Or Florence Henderson, we're singing a song, the desert song. Nelson Eddy, Jeanette MacDonald, my desert is calling, and she would maneuver around so she had the best camera angle to the television camera. I said, Tommy, I don't care. He says, do it. He really covered me, And
I'm giving you the best camera angle in live stream right now.
yeah, but Tommy had
Your
he
thunder
was
here. All right, I'm coming back. All right.
Tommy.
Oh, now I froze you up on that camera angle. Oh no,
Well,
we're
that's
all
okay.
frozen. Hold
I
on.
can't talk.
Let's see if we can't recover.
My camera's my screen's moving.
Maybe we are back there. Okay, now let me add you to the stream. I think it was you actually.
It's my hand.
Something happened with Dickie's live stream. I think we may have overexcited him there. So Dickie, I'm going to come back onto cam with me, and hopefully you will join us back in the stream.
That's okay.
So there we go. At least I'm back in the stream. I'm not sure what happened to Dickie in that particular moment. Let me add you to the stream.
That way.
Okay, I am back with you. I don't know what happened to my stream, but
okay. I see we're getting short on time here. Basically, we went to couples counseling. You've heard of EST, and we didn't go to EST. We went to Landmark. I did some Landmark stuff.
The forum and all that followed.
Yeah. Good stuff. But anyway, and they do couples counseling. So while I was doing it, says can you have same sex couples that's just business partner couples? Yeah. So we got a guy to come up to Tommy's vineyard in Sonoma, and I thought since I'd been through 3 or 4 seminars that I just sit back and watch Tommy struggle and and learn. The guy was after my ass the whole time. I said, wait a minute, and I didn't like that guy. But anyway.
But you know what? Anyway, look at your life. That's the reinvention, right? I mean, it's the constantly growing, looking inside, realizing that some of the things this guy was saying may have been true.
Yeah. But guess what? We learned, which we shouldn't have been that hard of a lesson, that when we criticize each other, it was positive. We wanted the act to be better. And Tommy could sense some timing stuff that I was doing that he thought I could improve it. And I gave him lots of suggestions. And part of our timing was me whispering in his ear when he didn't know what to say. Yeah. And my mind would click, 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 click to a different perspective or point of view than his would click. And sometimes that timing, they said, you got great timing. No, we don't. I didn't hear what Dickie said. I had to say, what? And I did it. So those things work together, and you never take credit. But Tommy, we realized after that, that's a few days, we got another 10 years out of the act, and we worked better.
The key there is that feedback is a gift, as hard as it is to hear. And if the intention behind giving the feedback is constructive, it's a gift.
Yeah. But you've got to want that gift.
All right, so let's talk about wanting the gift of sobriety. You wanted that gift somewhere. Took you a while, didn't it?
I didn't know. I just thought I was an enthusiastic drinker. I didn't know I was a drunk, and I wasn't all the time. And there's varying degrees. There are varying degrees of some people drink a lot and don't know when to stop, but they eat a lot, don't know when to stop. They don't know when to stop buying clothes, don't know when to stop collecting things or whatever. And when I found I was luckier than smart. And when I found the rooms of AA, it took me quite a few years to get the magic of it and what it can give. I was in a pink cloud. Pink cloud is, I went to rehab. I thought it was a rest home for celebrities. So there were some. And once I found out I was an alcoholic, it was, that's my problem. The Dickie that I am now has always been there, But if you start overdoing it with drugs and whatever, you put corrosion all over that shiny part of yourself. And
So you
I didn't know.
got sober 25 years, a day at a time. 26 years coming up, right?
Yeah, I'm 26 years, and now I know that I'm a work in progress. I know that I'm just one of many. It's not all about me. I love to share. I love to. If you're an elite anything, musician, athlete, performer, after a while, sometimes it's very easy to say it's them and it's us. And it's not them and us with me anymore. It's just us. And I love taking an Uber when I can. And I found the most amazing people interacting with me one-on-one. And I love to validate people's existence because they are so important. I love ordinary. Mandela had a poem written about him after he died from a very dear friend, a book. It was called Mandela, an Ordinary Man. At first you say, that's ridiculous. No, ordinary people are the ones that jump into the frozen river to save people from a plane wreck. They stop and they help. Ordinary people make the world go because they're ordinary. They're not sick and selfish, and they're available. And to be available human being in today's, and one of the most important things in AA is, and it should be done in politics, say what you mean, but don't say it mean.
Ooh.
Anybody
So
says
let me
anything
talk
mean,
about what was the
reject it.
driver you think to drinking? I mean, because clearly now with this clarity of vision and 25 years of sobriety and a constant focus on being kind and being approachable and being ordinary in extraordinary ways, what do you think separated you from that person and let alcohol be the solution for a while?
I never would have guessed it, but I didn't know there was an inside of me. I thought deep thinking was what novelists wrote in books to fill up the pages, to justify, to motivate, and I would cry. When I read Shogun, I went through 3 or 4 bottles of sake. It was a great book, but I found a way inside myself. And I love myself now. I love that our higher power gives us this gift of introspection, of acceptance, of copying the responsibility for my actions. And then when you see them saying, and they're not good actions, you make amends. Apology and amends, 2 different things. When you do a quick fix like S, you go out and say, I'm sorry. That doesn't work. You have a lot of steps. Is finding a higher power, saying you're not it, doing a rigorous inventory, moral inventory of your rights and your defects of things, writing them down, sharing it with another living person and the God of your choosing or understanding. And then if you don't damage anybody, and it's important, make an apology for you, not for them. They don't have to forgive you. You could do unforgivable things. And we all know the only person or the only thing that forgives you is your God.
Dickie Smothers, I warned you, the only thing I warned you about is that I might do a rapid fire final minute. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
I think we got to just end with the magic of this moment.
Oh, thank you.
Because
I wouldn't have been good.
Maybe I'll tag it on just this much. You're 82 soon, right? You'll be 82 in a couple of months.
In my 82nd year.
Yeah, there you go. There's something so vital, so vibrant, so real about you today. You are a charming, mature male, and I'm not hitting on you.
Thank you very much. I'm in love already.
And where are the elders? Where is the wisdom? How come we don't take more time in these kind of conversations, you and me kind of conversations? What's wrong? Why? I want you to keep feeding my sense of what's important.
Well, what's the question? I'm not clear. I don't have the clarity of, you're saying people don't take time to do that enough?
Yeah, I want you bottled up and shared all over the place. Where is, I know you guys did a 50th anniversary of your show cancellation tour.
Yeah, but that's showbiz. That's showbiz. When I saw the Mr. Rogers movie,
Yeah.
He was so gentle and strong. He was spring steel. He got an agenda to give this man some insight on being a better person. And he didn't say it. It just surreptitiously, covertly snuck and bit him on the bottom. And he learned a lesson through the strength of a gentle person. There's so much can be done for being gentle, but you can't teach a 12-step in schools or in seminars or anything else. You have to hurt. You have to have a life that is totally not working for you and admit it, and then say, what can I do about having a meaningful life? Can I get my family back? Can I get my friends back? You have to really want it, because we don't advertise a 12-step program at all. You come to us, we'll help you. But if you can't sell it. If you got what we want, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I think your depth is definitely in the 12-step recovery journey. I think your depth is beneath that too. Like, the journey helped you access the part of you that you love, right? That part of you that you love is what is lovable to a lot of us. I mean, I treasure what you've gone through in your journey. I treasure your relationship with your brother. I treasure your comedy. All of that. But
Joseph, here's the thing. Let me throw something back at you. Joseph, you've probably had a very, very interesting life. Probably didn't imagine where you'd be here today. And you didn't think of this. God didn't let me live this long just to live this long. Yeah.
Amen and hallelujah, brother. We're going to do this again sometime.
I'd love
Maybe when you turn 164.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot golf. I'm going to shoot my age in golf, or you know what? I take challenges today that I can't really master, because that's the joy of progressing in life. Ballroom dancing, that helping others. God, there's just so much to do out there that I could wish. No, I don't wish I could live for. If here's the thing: if we could expend our life to 200 years, what point of physicality would we be for that 200? Would we just be old for another 150 years, or would we be the prime of life for another 150 years? What part of life? The length is irrelevant.
And I think Wayne Dyer once said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?" And I think in many ways you can be very young at 81, or you can be very old at 8. And I think the key is to try to be as present in that moment with the fullness of spirit that you have. And thank you for being a gift to me. We're going to wrap it at that. Thanks for all of you who joined in, people who shared your comments throughout. So we got amens, we got powerful wows, we got great points in the feedback. This stream will be out there. If you liked what you saw today, please share this link. Unlike live television of the old days where they didn't record it for replay, where this is available for replay, it was live. It's kind of like the old days, Dickie, except it is going to be available to people either on YouTube or Facebook or on LinkedIn. This is an amazing man. I have nothing. I have nowhere to send you. It's not like you have to go and buy his CDs or his tapes or, fix a dent. None of that. It's just Dickie Smothers giving to you his gifts today. So thank you. I will catch you all next week. Next week, great guests coming up. I've got so many of them. Ellen Rohr is going to be with me. We've got just so many tremendous guests that I'm blanking on them all now, because I just saw Dickie Smothers blow me a kiss, which was enough to freak out any human being.
Well, that was your many fans that are tuning in.
All right. If they get a kiss, it's fine. Other than that, I'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Give you